When you have a limited company, the tax man is unfortunately going to form a big part of your life. And in this video, we're going to look at PAYE tax, which I think it's safe to say is the one tax where you're going to have the most interactions with the HMRC, as with any other tax that you're going to come across. On top of that, it affects yours and your employees' personal income. So obviously there's an extra feeling element to it, and whether you're a big business or a small business and just have even a micro business with less than 10 employees, just having one employee, it's a big thing. It's a big thing that you're dealing with because you're dealing with people's personal income. So when it comes to PAYE, it's an important thing to get right. And in this video, we're going to talk through some of the detail of PAYE and why, although it appears simple in the face of it, there's a huge number of factors which can affect it, which adds to its complexity. So, as I say, at a high level, PAYE appears simple, Neil, doesn't it, in terms of what it is?
It should be, that's right. It should be that you pay as you earn, is as you employ people and you pay them, each time you pay them, you work out how much tax or national insurance do they need to have deducted, and you deduct it, and a few weeks later you pay it over to the tax man. So it should be a very simple thing, and equally, because it's not actually a company tax, you would like it to be simple and easy, because you're actually just being an administrator for the Inland Revenue to some extent, because it's not your tax, but there's an element that is, I suppose, the employer's national insurance that is a true cost to the company on top of the salary. But if someone's earning a salary of £30,000 a year, you're deducting money from that 30,000 before you give it to the employee to pay it over to the tax man. And so, it should be very straightforward and simple. But unfortunately,
reality,
I think, as you said, it's if you're paying people weekly, fortnightly, monthly, it means there's some interaction with the tax man every time you do that. So it will be the area that you have the most interaction with the...
So I mean, you've been in accounting for over 30 years. Is it the most complicated tax that we deal with, do you think? Or it's not far off?
It's not. I think it's one of those things. It's like VAT, which is very simple until it isn't.
Yeah.
And PAYE and how you deal with employment taxes is very simple until it isn't. And that's the case. So there will be, the old 80-20 rule. I'm sure 80% of employees' tax affairs are very simple, and it is, I'm paying them this much, I take this much away, I pay that to the employee, I pay that to the tax man. That's all very simple. But as we'll come on to in a moment, there are lots of
unusual
quirks that make that
And
complicated.
it's from a founder and sort of to running a business point of view of things that sort of you just don't envisage impact it's going to have. These unusual arrangements in inverted commas.
And as you said, it's one of those areas that people, I know when I've been involved in payroll, it can be quite nerve-wracking, because it's not just, well, if I get it wrong, I've got to suffer the consequences and I'll deal with the tax man and whatever, and I've misunderstood something. But it's actually an employee's livelihood. It's an employee's going to suffer the consequences of you getting it wrong as well. Yeah.
And as you take on your first few employees, you're going to feel that more than probably you will in a company who's got tens of thousands of employees.
Like you used the expression a micro business, which is less than 10 employees, I think is the definition. But I've always felt that, someone who's working out of their back bedroom, setting up their own business, that's a micro business. They then go and rent an office or a desk somewhere. They've got to find that money every month. That's quite a commitment, you're going to do. But when you take on one employee, that is a quantum leap, because the regulations that you're now into, and just the responsibility towards that person is huge. So by the time you've got 10 employees, you're going to have some systems in place to manage that and track that. But that very first employee is huge, I think.
Yes, no doubt. And in terms of the unusual arrangements that can come up pretty quickly. And just looking, the new starters you've got to get right. Just holidays has an impact. If you take on student loans, leavers, you like to think everybody's going to join the company and stay with you ever, but
and
reality is not like that.
And even just, are they starting on the first of the month and leaving on the last day of the month?
Yeah.
You know, even that just adds another level of complication.
And before you know it, bang, 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 bang. The number of things that has an impact that you just don't necessarily think about. You might think of, oh, we'll do a bike scheme or whatever, and we'll help our employees buy a bike. That's a great thing to do, and employees will appreciate. But then, James, there's a tax implication that you got to think about on top of a decision that you've made to try and help your employees.
I've advised many SMEs over the years, and I can't remember how many, but there's a good number have sort of said, oh yeah, this bike scheme, how does that work? And not a single one of them has ever taken it up because it was just too complicated.
Yeah. And it just, the pensions company, you just think, oh, go get a company credit card, that'll make things easier. Tax, PAYE, tax implications, all these things.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, if it is a complicated area, but as in to give a high level view of various ones, and we're just sort of looking through the slide there and going round. New starters, get it right from the outset.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, there's a process, because a new starter to you is probably a leaver to someone else, and then there is a whole process of making sure that they come onto the system correctly, and it's not just, you know, with PAYE, you know, we've got on their pension contributions, but these days with auto enrolment, that is now you know, much more regulated than it was before, and you've got to get that right from the beginning. So there are all sorts of things that you need to do with new starters, some of which will be making sure you deduct the tax correctly at the right time and the right amount. But at the same time, there's all the other legal implications and HR issues of taking on new starters. So making sure they're auto-enrolled in the pension, making sure they've got the contracts of employment, and you've got office rules, and you've got a handbook, and you know, all the things that go alongside employing people need to be in place as well. Yeah,
and I mean the benefits in kind thing of you're trying to be a good employer and give people different things, and that's a great thing, but you just got it. There is a tax implication at the back of it that you've got to be aware of, and whether you're getting some help to deal with it, either through an accountant or a bookkeeper or whoever, as in these things can get complicated quite quickly.
Yeah, and it's the innocent mistakes as well that get made. Benefits in kind, we all know that company cars are a benefit in kind, but you know, what happens with mobile phones? Well, if you provide someone with a mobile phone, that's not a benefit in kind. But if I pay your mobile phone bill, then that's a different kettle of fish and is taxed completely differently. If I buy you a travel card or pay for you to travel around London, you know, there's all sorts of areas that you can look and say, well, you know, that's being a good and responsible employer, that's being helpful and whatever, but you do need to be careful that they don't fall within the legislation of benefits in kind. And you know, the Inland Revenue may not agree with me, but they generally they don't believe there's anything such thing as an innocent mistake. If you make a mistake, there will be penalties applied.
Yeah. And I know we're calling them unusual circumstances, but as in we've got like holidays. A holiday's not an unusual circumstance, but as in if it's out worth a norm in terms of people not taking enough holiday, want to take more, all these things have in it.
Yeah, and these days, people with 0 hours contracts, you know, a lot of people are on there. Well, how does holiday work for them? And again, there's a whole different way. There are several ways you can treat it, but it's thinking about it beforehand and not a year down the line someone goes, oh, I've been working here for a year, I haven't had any holiday yet. What happens now? So,
which could easily happen. It's not.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen it happen. And suddenly there's like, oh yeah, they're entitled to a whole load of money that you hadn't budgeted for or hadn't thought through because of the legal implications of it.
So, I mean, this feels like an area to me where, as in help is an important thing to get from that. And as I say, we've got another video on, do you really need an accountant or not for your business? And I think probably it's subjects like this where that question probably becomes more prominent for people, because it's not, I'm just set up, I'm trying to get customers, I'm trying to get them to buy the product or service that I'm offering. I'm not thinking about if someone forgets to take a couple of days holiday or doesn't want to take a couple of days holiday, Jinx, how does that affect the tax at the end of the day?
Absolutely, and the difficulty of PAYE is the people who are helping you and advising you, they've got to know all the things that you're thinking of doing. So in terms of outsourcing the payroll, well, as we said at the beginning, the simple one is, I'm paying this person £2,000 a month. How much tax and national insurance do I have to deduct? Well, there's software out there that does that, and there'll be companies out there that'll do it for you and whatever. But it's the bit of, if you don't tell them, oh, and by the way, I'm now paying for his mobile phone, rather than giving him a mobile phone, or he's been on holiday, or he's worked so hard I took him out for a slap-up meal, or I paid for him and his partner to
Christmas
go out for a thing, and
and so you're trying to be a good employer.
You've got to make sure that the people who are looking after that aspect are fully aware of all the things you know. And if you don't know that it's important, how do you know to tell them? So it is a minefield of just of making sure you're getting the advice. I think the thing to think about is, any time any money or anything is given to an employee, you need to stop and ask someone, are there any tax implications on this?
And that mobile phone's a great example of it. Just basically things are going well, like things are happening so fast, particularly in the beginning. One of your sales team's out making hundreds of calls or whatever, and you just think, let's simplify stuff. Look, we'll pay your bill, just keep making the calls, and it's just not a thought that there's another implication there. So it's one of these, I think it's a key area of tax where generally business events can overtake you, and you're not naturally going to be thinking about this stuff. And I don't think, to be honest, it's worth your energy to a degree thinking about it. It's just, as you say, of being able to tell somebody how we're going to deal with it when it happens.
Absolutely.
So, as I say, it's a complicated area of tax. Hopefully that's been a good introduction in terms of what is PAYE tax, and this has been a useful video. Please don't forget to subscribe, where we've got lots of other videos with hints and tips on how to get your new business formed and established from day one. And thanks for watching.